Hello, beautiful people. Aloha and welcome to another episode of Touchful Podcast. It's been a while since I said it last time. It's been 2 months since the last episode. I pressed a little pause on a podcast for various reasons, and then this pause ended up to be a little longer than I expected. But if this pause in recording gave me anything, then more than ever, it gave me the feeling that I love doing this podcast. I love this moment when I can sit here in front of the microphone, open up my heart, and speak straight from there. This little break in recording, even though it was longer than planned, and it was surprising even for me how long it took me to feel ready to start recording again. I feel it was very, very much needed. So I'm slowly coming back, and I'm saying slowly because today I have quite a special episode for you and a different one. The one that I recorded as a live stream on my social media, as a live stream on Instagram. As much as I like social media for various reasons, there is one thing that I absolutely hate about social media, and is that whatever you put there doesn't live for long, if you know what I mean. There is this constant wave of new things, new posts, new reels, new live streams. And whatever you put there, no matter how beautiful and valuable and important it might be, it just doesn't last long. It doesn't live long. That's why I decided to take that live stream and put it here today as today's episode of Touchful Podcast. So today's episode is about the last year of my life. The last year of my life, which ended up to be one of the most beautiful years of my life, and definitely one of the most difficult and challenging years of my life. It was a year when probably the biggest dream of my life came true. And with that biggest dream came many challenges. So in today's episode, I'm sharing with you my journey of manifestation and magic and all the fears that came with that dream coming true. All the struggle of me feeling unworthy of having the life that I'm having. So it will be quite an intimate and personal storytelling, like often in this podcast. So I wish you a beautiful time with that story of mine, that story that comes from the heart, a story of a girl who believed. If you are here for the first time, thank you for being here. If you are a listener who is coming back, aloha and welcome. It's great to have you here again. I keep you all in my heart. I put my hand over my heart, breathe to my heart, from my heart to yours. I am grateful that I am here. I am grateful that you are here, that we can be in this together. And I wish you a beautiful time listening to the story of the last year of my life. And I hope that it will inspire you, move you, touch you, and bring some beauty into your life. Aloha, good morning. 11/11, 11th of November, 11/11. Beautiful day to be alive and beautiful day to go live. I would like to go live today to tell you a story of magic, a story of the last year of my life. Because last year, on another magical date, 1/11, on 1st of November 2023, I changed my life. My life changed when I moved to the Icelandic countryside where I live right now, in the Icelandic micro village in the west part of the country in Snæfellsnes Peninsula. And couple of days ago, when I was celebrating my 1 year here, some of you had questions about all kinds of things and how this last year had been for me and how did it happen that I moved here, and all kinds of questions that I have here. So I thought that I would love to share this story with you, because to me personally, it is a story of magic. It is definitely one of the most magical experiences of my life. Not just living here, but the whole process that led me to the decision that I am moving out. I am changing my life. And I would like to take you and myself down the memory lane through that process and everything that had to happen in my life to make one of my biggest dreams come true. Because last year, on 1st of November, when I moved in here, that was the last step of my dream coming true. That was also the first step of my new dream opening up. But last year when I moved in here, it was like the end of a whole sequence that led me to this moment when I walked into the house where I live now, and I thought to myself, this is it. This is happening. One of the greatest dreams of my life is now a reality. And this whole process that led me to being able to say these words, that itself was one of the most empowering, transformational, and magical. I know I overuse this word, but I'm going to use this word a lot today in this life. Magical, empowering, transformational processes of my life. I feel that what happened for me last year that led me to being able to move here, that was the process of manifestation in its purest form. Never before or never after I managed to manifest something in such textbook way, I would say. So if you are interested in manifestation, law of attraction, and all these things, then you will find like textbook steps in what I did to be able to move here. But even if you are not into these things, then still I hope that the story that I want to share will be inspirational for you, because it is a story of a dreamer, and it is a story of dreams coming true. Dreams coming true just because we talk about them. That's how it started for me. So before I tell you about this whole last year of me living here and how it affected me and how it changed me and what it opened up for me, because that itself is a story on its own, I would like to take all of us even one step back to this moment that started all this whole process of me deciding to change my life and move out and all that. And when I was sitting here with myself and with my heart right before starting this live stream, I was thinking to myself, okay, so when did it start? Right, I moved in here last November, but like I said, that was the last step of a whole sequence of a dream come true. So when did it all start? And then I realized that back in May last year, I went through a really big awakening. I'm going to use this word. I hesitated a little bit, but okay, I'm going to use this word. Through really big awakening regarding myself and my relationship with myself. That was back in May last year. So I thought to myself, okay, maybe it started then. But then I thought, no, that awakening was only possible because of what happened earlier, back in February that year. when I met my mentor. So I thought to myself, okay, maybe I should start there. But then I was like, okay, but the fact that I met my mentor and that it was all possible for me to even start dreaming again, that was possible because of something that happened earlier and because of something that happened earlier. And then I realized that it doesn't have a beginning because it's whole a sequence of my life, and one step leads to another. And sometimes when a particular part of that sequence happens, I am not even aware that this is happening to make my dreams come true. And back then I was definitely not aware of that. So back at the beginning of 2023, I had no idea that at the end of that year I would be moving out from the apartment when I had been living for, I think, 7 years, and that at that time the biggest dream of my life would be coming true. So the biggest dream of my life was to live in a small wooden house in a remote place where it's silent and where I have a beautiful view from every window, a view that is that I'm surrounded by nature. So it's the view on nature, but to me it was super important back at the time when I was dreaming about it, that this is the view to some open space. So when I look through the windows, I can look far, far, far away. Because back at the time when I was living in my apartment in a beautiful little town near Reykjavik, there was a building right next to my apartment. So I could never, and I had just one window in my apartment, just on one side of the apartment. So I could never have this feeling that I can look far away, not to mention that it was never really silent there. So back at the beginning of 2023, I had this dream about just moving out, being able to live in a countryside, somewhere far, where it's silent and beautiful view. That was it. And I had no idea how. I was not even thinking to myself how. That was far beyond my capacity at that time, because that dream seemed so out of this world. The moment I was dreaming about that, I was like crashing that dream, crashing it down and reminding myself, it's not possible. How do you think it's going to happen? How do you think you can afford this? How do you think you're going to find a place like this? Just a cute little house somewhere far away with a beautiful view. Right, yeah. And you think it's all going to happen to you. So these were my thoughts at that time. And I remember that, and I feel I have tears coming to my eyes for two reasons. One is because over a little more than 1 year, I feel that I have gone so far, that I have changed so much from a girl who at the beginning of last year couldn't believe that anything good could happen to her, to a girl that really believes that this world is magic and all kinds of magical things are happening to her. So one of the reasons why I'm tearing up, not planned, right now is this. And the second reason is because it pains my heart to remember that back then I didn't believe in myself and I didn't believe in my dreams. Hi Caro, hi, I missed you too. Thank you for being here. So when I started to think what changed, I feel that the biggest change that had to happen for this whole sequence of dream come true to even begin was for me to start dreaming again and believing in dreams and believing that my dreams will come true. And in my case, it was possible because I found the right person. I found the right mentor. And that was around February, March last year. I found a mentor who reminded me to have dreams, to start dreaming again. And I'm gonna cry again. Oh, this life will be with lots of tears. So again, when I take myself back to the very beginning of that 2023, I feel that I didn't have dreams. I had plans, I had goals, but I didn't have dreams. I'm not sure if you can you feel the difference between plans and goals and things that you want to achieve versus dreams? So I had plans and goals. I knew how I wanted to grow my business and, how to measure the progress. But that was all in this realm of logic. And the realm of logic is my specialty, has been for my whole life. And I love this realm. It's a very needed one. But I lived so much in the realm of logic that I completely forgot that there is another realm which is much more fun, and that's a realm of magic. A realm where I can just dream. And at that time, dreams seemed, I want to say that they seemed and they felt almost like a waste of time. So back at the beginning of that year, before I met that mentor of mine who reminded me to dream, before that, when I was dreaming about this cozy life in a remote place and a cute little house, that seemed in a way to me like a waste of time, because immediately I was being confronted with the fact that I don't live this life, and I don't know, for the life of me, I have no idea how to make that happen. So that only made me feel worse until, in my case, I met the right person who reminded me that dreams are important and that dreams are here. And most importantly, in my case, that dreams come true just because we think about them and just because we speak about them. And I remember when I heard it from her for the first time, I was really like, I was intrigued. I thought to myself, okay, so I don't need to do anything. I don't need to go into the realm of logic and start to plan and think, okay, how much money do I need to be able to move out, and where can I find a house, da 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 da. I could just ditch all that and I could just dream. I was really intrigued by that. But I'm so grateful that I gave it a try, and I just started dreaming, asking myself all these questions that back then seemed so cringy for me, and now I love them with my whole heart. Questions like, if everything was possible for you, if you could live wherever you want, whatever you want, however you want, how would you like to live your life? And asking myself these questions was painful because it made me realize that I know nothing about myself. That when I was asking myself these questions, then very often my first genuine answer was, I don't know. Because I was not used to asking myself these questions. So in my case, it was the first step to start asking myself about my dream life and really allowing myself to just go into the dreamland, go into the magic land without constantly asking myself, okay, but how? Okay, but how? Okay, but how could that happen? This will never happen. I really had to lovingly learn to quiet that voice, to put the volume down of that voice in my head that was telling me, but how, it's never gonna happen, you don't have enough money, you don't have you don't know the right people, you don't deserve this. I will come back to that later. And I started to ask myself these questions. If everything was possible, if I could live any life, anywhere, anyhow, how would I like my life to look like? And that was, I think, really the first moment in my adult life when I started to get to know myself, truly, deeply get to know my human. And back in May last year, like I mentioned at the beginning of this live stream, I had like a really big shift, a really big awakening between myself and myself. And that was the time in my life when I started to really consciously and deliberately building a beautiful relationship with myself. That was the time in my life when I decided that nothing was more important than that. Than for me getting to know myself better and building and creating the most beautiful and loving and supporting relationship with myself that I could ever possibly have. And that started to shift something in me. That brought a huge change in me when I started to really listen to myself and to my dreams and to my desires and needs and wants. And I also started to hear these parts of me that were unhappy with the life that I had at that time. And just to be clear, I had a good life at that time. I had an okay life. I had a beautiful apartment that I liked. I had a business that was very prosperous at that time. I was not unhappy. By all means, I was not. But I was not also deeply fulfilled. You know, I didn't have that feeling that I would open my eyes in the morning and I would think, oh, this is it. This is my life. Oh my God, this is my life. I didn't have a feeling like that. And I wanted to feel like this. Somehow, I started to believe that it is possible for me, for everybody in that matter, but I was focused on myself and my life, that it is possible for me to have a life like this, when I just wake up and I think to myself, oh my God, hello, it's so good to be alive. This is my life. I love it so much. And I didn't know it back then, but I know it now, looking back, that was the foundation of this whole manifestation and manifesting the house and the life that I have right now. That it started back then, when nothing in my outside world was different. I still had the same apartment and the same life, but deep in me, something shifted, and something opened up. It felt like a huge opening into this realm of dreams, into this realm of magic. And then it was June. It was June last year, which is always my favorite month of the year. June is the month when I have my birthday, and I always feel something so special about my birthday. And I was already, it was mid-year. I had been working with my mentor a lot and with myself, and really shifting things inside me internally without changing anything in my outside life. I still had the same apartment and I had the same job, but I was working a lot with my energetics, I would say. I was working a lot also with my beliefs, with everything that I believe that is possible and not possible for me. And it was all internal work, a very fine, invisible to other people internal work that I was doing every day. I was super committed to that. Then came June, and I decided, a couple of days before my birthday, I decided to go for a trip to the place that I loved the most from all the places in Iceland. Um, I had this place that I loved the most. And spoiler alert, it's the place that is now about 15 minutes from where I live now. So I took my car, I drove to that place, to the little beach in a town called Hetlunar, which is the town, not even town, a micro village next to mine. And it's something that I had been doing many, many times before that, because that was one of my favorite places to be. So I took myself there. I went to visit all my little favorite places around Hetlunar, and I remember this one moment when I was sitting there, and I thought to myself, or I felt it deeply, that that's it. I am moving here. I'm going to live here. I'm going to live here, and I'm going to come to this beach every day. And I don't know how this is going to happen, and I am excited about it. And that was a shift in me that was almost tangible. That was a shift in me when I made a decision. And again, if you are into manifestation and if you know anything about that process, then you know that this is probably one of the most important steps of manifesting anything. Making a decision and excluding all other options and possibilities. So I was sitting on that beach, and I felt, I'm going to live here. I am moving here. And I'm going to live in the house that is behind me. There was this like a really beautiful house that I was always fascinated about. And that's it. That was a very silent shift in me. And it was not with this energy of demand of like, I'm going to move here. I don't care. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm just moving here, whatever. It was nothing like that. It was a very sweet and silent energy of choosing this and choosing that this is the path that I'm going to take, and I am not taking any other path. So imagine that you are standing on a crossroads and there are many roads and you can go here and here and here and here and here. For me, that was a moment when I chose this path, and I took the first step on that path, having no idea how this path is, how it's going to be, how it's going to work out. But deep in my heart, deep in my belly, somewhere deep in me, that was a moment for me, a moment of, I'm choosing this option. I'm going to live here. I'm going to move here. Do I know how? No. Am I shit scared? Yes. Am I staying on that path? Yes. That was shortly before my birthday, and that started, just this decision in me started the domino effect. And I feel that I really don't have time to tell you all the details of all these stories and how suddenly people appeared in my life, and the right people and the right phone numbers and the right connections. But I remember how it felt, all that time between middle of June when I made that decision and middle of August when I found my house. That time felt like a game. It felt like something sweet. It felt like trying out new things and meeting the right people, and also doing things that were very much out of my comfort zone at that time. I think this is super important part of every manifestation process and your dreams coming true. You will be pushed, invited to do things that are very much out of your comfort zone. There is no other way. There is no other way. And I'm not saying that it's going to be painful or stressful or difficult, because for me it still felt sweet and adventurous and like a game, but I was doing things that were very much outside of my comfort zone. Starting with, don't laugh at me, but I really don't like making phone calls to strangers and trying to speak Icelandic with them. I was doing that constantly and a lot. And just kind of like holding this fire of desire, this fire of dream in my heart. And by far, the most, I don't want to say difficult, but out of my comfort zone, the most out of my comfort zone thing that I did was to resign from my apartment that I was living back then with a 3 months notice. I resigned on the what's the name of that month? August, on the 1st of August last year, without having a clue where I would live. So when I was resigning from my apartment, the one that was my, safe place for 7 years, that was a safe place for me to live in, and that was a safe place for my business. And I resigned from that apartment at the beginning of August, and I didn't have a lease for another place in my hand. I was playing a game. I had options. I had some people. I made some phone calls. But most importantly, I had this conviction in my heart. And now when I look at myself back then, I have no idea where I got the courage from. I'm thinking to myself, what did I do? Like, I closed one door, just trusting and believing that another door will open for me, but actually not having any certainty, like in the logical world, that it will open for me. I had this certainty in my heart, but I didn't have a lease in my hand. And again, when I look at this whole sequence, that was another important moment for my manifestation and for that dream coming true. It's this moment when you need to let go of one branch, and there is this moment when you are flying to catch another branch, and you fully trust that it's there, but you don't have anything in this hand, you don't have anything in this hand, you are just empty-handed, flying with full trust in your heart, but with no external evidence that it's going to happen. And again, if you are into manifestation in any way, then you know that sequence. You know how important this moment is to believe that it's going to happen before you have any external evidence that it's going to happen. And again, when I think about myself from back then, I have no idea where I got the courage to do that. And I was never able before or after to replicate that feeling with this full trust, that I can with full trust resign from my apartment and just open myself up and say, hey, I am available. Like, I am available for this dream. Nothing is holding me back. Literally, I had nowhere to go back to. And that was on 1st of August. And I even remember I was telling that, sharing that story, that information that I had resigned from the apartment. I was sharing that story with my partner at that time. And he told me, but you know how the market is right now and how difficult it is for people to find a place to live. And I looked at him and I told him, I don't want to hear about this. Not with anger, but with like full conviction. Please don't tell me this. It doesn't matter. It's not helping me and it doesn't matter. I don't care what the market is. I'm going to be okay. And still, up to this day, I had no idea where it came from, but I had it in my heart that I will be okay. And on 15th of August, so 2 weeks after making that decision, I met the owner of the house that I'm renting right now. And a couple of days after that first meeting, I was absolutely sure that I would move here and I would live here. And was that the beginning of a happy story? In a sense, yes. In a sense, no. I had no idea how I would support myself. I had no idea how that would work financially. I had no idea if I would even like it. But again, I had this excitement, and all that felt a little bit like a dream, a little bit like a game that I was willing to play. It was this feeling of me like, I have no idea, but I open myself up and I am curious. Instead of, I have no idea, so I'm panicking, I'm getting stressed, and I need to find the answer right now. So these are again these two approaches that we can choose in at any moment of our lives. When you don't know, you can say, I don't know, like I didn't know. I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to support myself. I don't know what I will be doing here. I don't know how it's going to work. I don't even know if I will like it. But I open myself up and I make myself available. And I say, yes, just, I don't know, but I'm curious. Versus, I don't know how I'm going to support myself and I don't know if I will even like it. Oh my God, what have I done? Maybe I should just go back to my old life where everything is predictable, or, maybe I should make some calculations. Maybe I should be ready for this option and this option and this option. I didn't go that way, but instead I chose somehow to trust myself, to trust my dream, because my reasoning, if there is any space for reason in that whole crazy story, my reasoning was that if this is a dream of mine, something that sets my heart on fire just when I think about it, if this is a dream of mine, why wouldn't it work? Like, there has to be a way for me to be able to live there and support myself financially and be happy. If this is what I want with my whole heart, why would I want from my higher self or from universe or God, whatever you believe in, why would I want something for me that would be less than amazing and less than magical and less than perfect? So on the 1st of November last year, I packed all my things into the car. I sold most of my things before that, or gave them away, and I moved in here where I live now. And that was, there was one more thing that I forgot to tell you. I need to tell you that because that's just too good to be true. So when I made that decision in June, shortly before my birthday, that I'm going to live in a place that is quiet, it is beautiful, it has a beautiful view, I did something that is again a textbook manifestation technique. So each morning when I was waking up from my old apartment where I was living, where it was noisy because there was a construction site right next to my apartment, I was waking up and I was laying in bed and I was feeling that I am waking up in my beautiful dream house, and it's quiet and it's silent and the bed is cozy and warm, and I'm waking up and then I'm going to make myself a cup of cacao and go for a walk, and it's going to be beautiful and silent and I'm surrounded by nature. And I would very often do that. Living in that apartment of mine, I would wake up, I would do this whole visualization, I would make myself a cup of cacao, and I would sit on my porch having this view on this construction site and the building next to me and hearing the noise of the construction. And I would be just sitting with that cup of cacao thinking to myself, what a beautiful, quiet morning. And if this sounds like a delusion to you, it was. It absolutely was. A part of manifestation is getting a little bit delusional. And I was delusional like this for 2 solid months, I think, to the point that it just felt like truth. And I listened to myself and I'm like, yeah, that was full on delusion. I was making myself a cup of cacao in the morning. I was going for a walk, walking through my town where I lived back then, choosing the paths that were the paths in nature, and just feeling and imagining that I live somewhere remote, somewhere far away, where it's just beautiful and quiet and silent. And at some point, still when I was living back in that apartment, a friend of mine visited me, and she said, aren't you like irritated by this noise from the construction site, which was right outside my window? And I was like, what noise? I was like, oh yeah, there is a noise. Because in my reality that I was living in a place that was quiet and there was no noise. And again, never before and never after in my life, I was able to do like a textbook manifestation like this. Just really priming my body and my whole nervous system to feeling that this is my normal life, that I wake up in my quiet, cozy, beautiful house and make myself a cup of cacao and I go for a walk and it feels natural. And the most beautiful thing is that if you work like this, if you work with manifesting your dreams like this, and finally your dream comes true, it finally happens, it feels both amazing because your dream is coming true, and it feels at the same time like the most natural thing in the whole world because you have lived it in your imagination and your body has lived it hundreds of times before. So when I moved in here on 1st of November last year, and I spent my first night here, and I woke up on 2nd of November, I still remember that. I woke up feeling silent, the bed was warm and cozy. I woke up, the house was still a little bit of a mess with all my things in. I made myself a cup of cacao, and I went for a walk, and I was walking towards the ocean. So I live by the ocean side, for those of you who don't know. I was walking towards the ocean, the sun was shining on my face, it was beautiful weather. And it felt like time collapsed, like timelines collapsed. And I am living something that I have lived already so many times in my imagination. So it felt both amazing, like I was genuinely, I was crying all the time, like, oh my God, this is happening. I can't believe this. That was my mind. But my nervous system and my body was like, yeah, that's just another day. We've been doing that for like last 3 months. I know this feeling. I know this silence. I know this view. I know how it feels deep in my nervous system and deep in my body. And that was such a beautiful process. Again, textbook manifestation. Such a beautiful process for me. When something finished, like this whole dream of mine came true, and at the same time a new door opened up for me, a door of me living my dream and being able to live in a place where it's silent and with a beautiful view and living in the cutest, most amazing, sweet wooden little house. And that was the last year of my life. Was it all just dreamy and amazing? No. It was the most beautiful year of my life for sure, but it was at the same time the most difficult year of my life for sure, absolutely. With all the changes, with all the challenges. And that is also something that I think sometimes we are not aware of that when your dream comes true, you know, in every Cinderella story and, you know, in every fairy tale, this is the end. Your dream comes true, you got your prince or whatever you want, in my case a house and living where I always wanted to live. You get that and then you live happily ever after. And in the reality, it doesn't look like this. You get your dream, you get your prince or your house, and that starts to expand you and transform you and change you. And in my case, the first 3 months of me living here were both extremely beautiful, extremely, extremely beautiful, and at the same time one of the most difficult time of my life, when I constantly felt unworthy of living such a life. I felt unworthy of having all this. There was a part of me that was absolutely sure that somebody is going to knock at the door and tell me that it's all a mistake, that it's not for me, that it is for somebody else, and that I cannot live like that I cannot have all this, that I cannot be happy like this, that I am not worthy and I don't deserve this. And it was the first 3 months of me living here, both crying happy tears and a second later crying tears of fear and despair and sadness of me feeling not good enough to have a life like this, of me feeling not worthy, of me feeling that now when I have this, now when I have this dream, I have to prove that I deserve this. And this is a super important moment in every dream coming true. And I want you to be super aware of it, that maybe you don't have this, maybe you will never have it. For me, it was physically painful almost. The feeling that, okay, I have that dream, now I have to prove that I deserve it, otherwise I will lose it. And the process of me, excuse my language, I need to say that, unfucking myself, it was a long one. It took me a couple of months to be able to realize and to feel that I don't need to do anything to prove that I am worthy of this. This is not why our dreams come to us, and this is not why our dreams come true. Our dreams come true for us out of love. Just like when you give somebody that you truly love, your child or your beloved, your friend, your parent, you give somebody who you truly love, you give them a gift, you buy them something that they really wanted, something that they dreamed about, and you give it to them. And then you don't expect from them to now prove to you that they are good enough friend or good enough partner to have that thing that you gave them, otherwise you're going to take it away. It doesn't work like this. You just give this gift to them because you know that it's going to make them happy and it's something that they always wanted, and you just want to see their reaction, right? This is the best thing about giving a gift to somebody, when we see their reaction, when they unpack the gift and they feel like, oh my God, they feel loved and they feel appreciated and they feel seen, and we don't want anything from them. We just want them to be happy with the gift. And it works like this between you and the world, or between you and the universe, between you and your higher self, between you and God, whatever you use for that name. That you get a gift, a dream come true. In my case, it was this house and this life, and you are not being expected, never ever, never ever, under any circumstance, never ever, to now prove yourself that you are worthy of that gift, otherwise it might be taken away from you. But it took me so long, so much practice, so many tears, and really every day for 3-4 months after I moved in here. It took me so much to finally feel that I deserve this, that in fact I deserve everything, and so do you. We deserve the most beautiful life. I'm gonna tear up again, I can feel it. The most beautiful life beyond our wildest dreams. We deserve all the love, all the money, all the friends and beautiful relationships and houses and travels and everything that we deeply want from our hearts. Everything that we deeply desire, we already deserve this. You don't need to do anything to prove that you are worthy. You don't. Look what I did in this. I so precisely described to you this whole manifestation process of my house. None of these steps was me proving to the universe that I am worthy of that house, so please give it to me. It was never on the way. It only got triggered once my dream came true. And I'm sharing this with you because it might happen for you as well, especially in these big dreams that we have. And they come true, and suddenly it feels like magic. And I look back at my life and I'm like, whoa, like what even happened? It all felt like I told you, like a game. It all felt like somebody else is speaking my words and using my hands. And then suddenly I'm here sitting in this house having the life that I wanted, and I'm like, and now what? So for me, in my case, the first instinct was, oh my god, now I need to prove that I was a good girl and I am a good girl, and nobody's gonna take this away from me as a punishment. And that was just in my head. That was just the wiring of my nervous system from, maybe some previous experiences or some beliefs that I was carrying deeply in my nervous system. But that is never the truth. If I learned something over this last year of me living here, is that is never the truth, that you need to prove yourself. You don't need to prove yourself to anybody ever. You don't even need to prove yourself to yourself. This is not your job on this planet, to come and to prove yourself. This is not. It is a waste of time. And still we all do that, and I still do that in so many areas of my life up to this day. But every now and then I need to remind myself, and everybody who wants to listen, this is not our job, to come to this earth and to prove that we deserve a life that we have here. You were put here on this planet. Of course you deserve it. You don't need to prove it. End of story. Oh, I need a sip of water. And I would like to answer a couple of questions that I got from some of you regarding my life here, my last year here, which, like I said, was the most extraordinary year of my life, and also in so many ways very challenging, difficult, sometimes scary, sometimes extremely lonely. I live alone. Yes, in a micro village. I have neighbors. There are like maybe 10 people living here. But still, I chose this life. My heart chose this life for me. And it doesn't mean that when we live the life that we wanted to live, that it's going to be happily ever after. There will be challenges, always, because they make us grow. So I have 3 or 4 questions here that I would like to answer. The first question, it's like a very big, broad question, and I really love it, is, what did you gain in this last year of living here? What did you get? What did you gain? And I was sitting with that question before the live stream, thinking about the answer, and the first answer that came to me was myself. That I feel like in this whole process that started even before me moving in here, but in this whole process of me starting to be the dreamer again and asking my heart what it really wants, I got myself back in a way that I didn't even know was possible. And I really believe that this is why we are given dreams. This is why we need to have dreams, and we need to follow them, because in the process we will get ourselves back. In the process we will grow, and we will expand, and we will connect to ourselves in such a way that would not be possible in any other way. I really think that this is what dreams are for. It's not about the outcome. It's not about me now having this house and living here. It's about this whole process. And this whole last year, where me living here just became so ordinary and normal, that now I have another dream, which is even bigger than this. And this whole process is about getting yourself back, I'm gonna say this word again, the F word, unfucking yourself from all the conditioning, from all things, the things that you think you should have or do for other people or prove or all that, unfucking yourself in the process, so you can get yourself back and get to know yourself in a way that is beyond imagination, beyond comprehension. So what I got over this last year is me getting to know myself in a completely new way. Also, because in my case, it was a super important thing for me to be able to live alone and not to have a regular 9 to 5 job. So my work now looks differently. I don't work 9 to 5 every day. I don't do massages every day. I don't do trainings every day. There are days or weeks when I don't have work scheduled in my calendar. And in my case, that was super important process to be able to get to know myself to the depth that I didn't even know was possible. And still, I sometimes feel that I have barely scratched the surface. But for me, this has become a meaning of my life, getting to know myself, getting to know this human, and really peeling off all the masks and all the layers of conditioning, and practicing to show up in the truest, most meaningful, most authentic way that I possibly can. Showing up for myself, showing up for my clients, for my Lomi Lomi students, showing up here on the live, showing up in my podcast, and so on and so forth. Another question which I really love is, what do you miss about your life from 1.5 years ago? And at first, when I saw that question, I was like, I don't miss anything. Like, really, I was sitting with myself and I was like, I don't miss anything. Like, some things in my life changed. Of course, the way I meet my friends and the way I am able to connect with my friends changed, but it's still there. It's just in a different way. So it's not that I missed that. And I was just like, I think I don't miss anything. But then I realized I do miss one thing. It's a very practical thing, and it's that I miss my violin teacher. I miss my violin lessons. So back in 2022, I made another dream of mine come true, and I started to learn to play the violin. And I had a teacher. I had classes with her once a week, and that was extremely helpful. And that also showed me the importance of a teacher in any kind of process, that anything that you are learning. That also taught me a lot about the importance of the teacher in learning Lomi Lomi. So the importance of me being the best teacher for my students. Anyhow, when I moved in here, obviously I couldn't have lessons with my teacher anymore, and I feel that the online classes, especially when it comes to violin and, you know, correcting all the postures and correcting my fingers and everything, that it would not be possible. It would not give me the same effect. So as a result, I almost stopped playing the violin. I sometimes still do play it, and I try to learn on my own, but it is not to the extent that it was. And it always saddens me a little bit. And I always promise to myself that, okay, I'm gonna practice every day and have some sort of a practice schedule for myself, because it is totally possible. I know some adults who taught themselves to play the violin to a certain degree. You know, there are online courses, there are all kinds of possibilities. But in my case, it turned out that what was so important for me and motivating me so much was me having the teacher. So I am still kind of like trying to feel into how I could be back to playing the violin like I used to before I moved in here, because I really, really loved that, and that was giving me so much, and I would love to come back to regular practice. And then another question is, what do you enjoy the most about living here? And again, thank you for that question, because that helped me to feel that right now, after a year of living here, I just feel that all this is so ordinary, that it's just an ordinary life, that I happen to live here and have this amazing view and the ocean and the glacier and the mountains and this amazing life. It kind of feels ordinary, as it should after some time. So then we can open up again our hearts and start dreaming, okay, if everything was possible for me, how would I love to live? How would I like to have my life? But I still want to answer, because there are things that I really, really enjoy. Definitely in my case, what I love the most is the silence. Or if it's not completely silent, and it is completely silent on some days, then it's the sounds of nature. Like today, it's been raining for the last 3 days, so I constantly hear the rain on the roof. I don't know if you are able to hear it on the through the mic on the recording, but the sounds of nature, the wind, the rain, the roaring ocean when it's really stormy and it's really windy. I hear the ocean inside my house. Even though I don't live right by the ocean, I still need to walk a couple of 100 meters to be standing on the side of the cliff. But all these sounds of nature and being surrounded by nature, and at the same time, to some extent, being surrounded by people. So when I look around, I see some houses. Most of them are empty for most of the year, but I have one house with my neighbors living there all year round. And being surrounded by nature, but sounds of birds in the summer, but mostly the wind and the rain. It's something that I love with my whole heart. Since I moved to Iceland in 2015, the wind has become like such a big part of me living in Iceland. And the wind all over Iceland is usually crazy around winter, but here, where it's more exposed than in the city, it sometimes goes crazy, and I absolutely love it. So this is what I enjoy a lot. And the ocean, living so close to the ocean, like I had no idea how soothing and amazing and life-changing it would be for me to live by the ocean, to be able to see the ocean from my windows, even if it's from far, far, far away. Then still I can just walk there, and it takes me a couple of minutes, and I am right on the edge of the cliff seeing the ocean. And I really feel that it has changed me, watching the ocean, swimming in the ocean, observing the waves. It has changed me as a person, the rhythms of the ocean, seeing how the levels of the ocean change with the tides, seeing how the ocean itself changes throughout the year, how the color of the ocean changes. This has changed me, and to my biggest surprise, but also not surprise, it's actually quite logical even, that my lomi lomi has changed a lot since I'm living by the ocean. So my massage practice has really changed because of the influence of the ocean and the influence of nature. So it changed not through the practice, not through me practicing Lomi or going to another training or learning from another teacher, but my Lomi has changed quite a lot over the last year because my teacher is the ocean. And also the way I teach Lomi has changed quite a lot since I started teaching it mostly here. And when I started to incorporate working with nature and working with elements a lot when I teach Lomi, and using nature as a teacher. So I think this is something that I could not even expect or imagine, how living here has changed my Lomi practice, my massages, and how it changed my the way I teach. And another question is, do you feel safe in bad weather? And I know who asked this question, and I know that this person is an Icelander, so I know that they understand what they mean when they say bad weather. But for those of you who don't live in Iceland, think about bad weather in winter and then multiply it by 3 at least, and then you will get a feeling of what bad weather in Iceland is. So to answer shortly, do you feel safe in bad weather? Yes, in a sense that I don't feel unsafe. I never felt that my life was threatened over the last year, especially in winter, because winter storms here can be pretty insane, to the point that I can feel that my whole house is really shaking and moving and shaking and moving. But I only once had a feeling that it might just, the roof just might be blown away, but it was just once for a very short moment. So I never feel unsafe when I'm inside. I actually really enjoy this crazy, stormy, windy, snowy, blizzardy weather. I even did something a little crazy, but I was super fun last winter when it was really, really, really stormy. It was snowing and it was really, really, really strong wind. I put on my overalls. I have this, like, this overalls, winter overalls, which is really, really warm. I dressed myself really warm with all the layers that I had, and I went out into the storm to just be able to feel it and to play with it. And my all-time favorite thing to do when it's windy is to be able to open my arms wide and to just lean forward or lean back and feel that I am held by the wind. And I have been doing that since forever, since I moved to Iceland on any windy day. But here it's really like 10 times better, because the wind here sometimes gets really crazy, and sometimes the roads are closed, though not very often, but it sometimes happens. So I had some experiences that I never had before in my life, like the experience of being physically stuck in my house. There was a time in April this year when we had so much snow coming in that all the roads were closed. Even if they were not closed, I would still not be able to go anywhere, because my car was just somewhere under a huge pile of snow. And it took me a couple of days to be able to dig out my car. So I really was physically stuck. I couldn't go anywhere, and that was the first time in my life ever like this. And it felt surprisingly good. There was something anxious about it, but it also felt surprisingly just good and nice. And this feeling of, if I cannot go out, I'm just gonna go in. That's always my approach. If you cannot go there, just go here. The universe inside you is endless. And one of the most amazing things about the house that I live in is that it has a little fire stove. So I am so much happy for the winter, because it's the time when I will be finally using my fire stove again. So the summer here, because the next question is about my thoughts on like living in such a beautiful spot and being surrounded by this whole nature, and how it feels and how it affects me. So the summer here was extraordinary. It was so beautiful. But when the summer ended and the autumn started, autumn is my favorite time in Iceland, September, October, and then when November started, and it's been now raining for 3 days, I don't know, call me crazy if you want to, but there is something I love so much about winter in Iceland, when it's windy and when it's dark. Last winter, like I told you, one of the most difficult winters of my life when it comes to being with myself and with all this unworthiness and all the feeling that I am not a good person and I need to prove that I am a good person. That was one of the most difficult winters of my life, but also one of the most beautiful processes ever in my life that I went through, to be able to connect to myself so deeply. And I believe that it is easier to go within when there is dark and when there are millions of stars and northern lights and the fire in the stove. So I'm very, very happy for this upcoming winter. And I am even more happy that there will be a moment at the end of November when I will be actually going to warm countries, because I have this Lomi Lomi training in Mallorca. which I wholeheartedly invite you to join me if you want to. So I will be going to a warm place for a moment and then coming back again to winter in Iceland. So I'm super excited for that because I never did that before in my life. I was always spending winters in Iceland or in Poland. But now I'm going to have this moment of just warmth and sun and teaching Lomi in Mallorca, and then I will be back here at the beginning of December. So I'm excited for that. And actually, when I think about living so close to nature, again, to me, it feels normal, not just because I spent the last year of my life here, but because back in Poland, I lived in a village. So I was, since I was a child, really close to nature. Still, the house where I lived in, it was just one of many houses on the street, but as a child, I would spend most of my days playing with another children in the woods or on the meadows or just, being in nature. And that's how I grew up. So it was always a very familiar feeling for me to be close to nature. Even in my 20s, when I moved to a really, really big city in Poland, where I was studying there and then living there for almost 10 years, still I felt okay that in that city that there is a part of me, that a little part of me that is a city girl, and I like the coffee places and all that stuff. I'm not a party girl, so I don't care about that part of living in a city. But still, even then, I was always, as often as I could, I would choose to go and spend time in nature back in Poland, going to the mountains for a weekend or going to the mountains for a couple of weeks with a backpack. So nature has been always a big part of my life. And also here in Iceland, since I moved in here in 2015, the nature here is just so close to you. Even if you live in a city, or I lived in a town next to the capital, then still it was just 5 minutes drive and you are in nature, beautiful, pristine, amazing, healing nature. And in that sense, that has been something that I really feel that shaped me as a human and shaped my sensitivity and also the respect for nature. I feel that I understand and feel the power of nature. And even here in Iceland, very often when I would go for a walk or climbing up the mountain, and the moment I would feel that it's unsafe or it's, the wind is changing or something, I would never have a problem to just come back home and not climbing to the top of that mountain or whatever, just feeling that, yeah, it's the nature, you don't mess with nature. But definitely being able to literally be surrounded by nature. So by Icelandic standards, I live in the forest. By my standards, I live in the bushes. So my house is surrounded by trees, but because it's Iceland, they are not very big trees. But to be able to, in the summertime, to see the green color through my windows and to hear the birds, it's healing for the soul, for my soul at least. I don't have a city soul. I know that for some people it would be punishment to live here in such a remote place with this whole silence and not many things to do here when it comes to social life. It took me really a year to build some sort of a social life, and if I want to go to the swimming pool or to the shop, it's 40 minutes drive, but I love it. But I know that to some people it would be a punishment to live here, but for me, with all this nature, I really feel that it's important for us as humans to be surrounded by beauty. The more I am surrounded by beauty in my life, the more I feel the healing power of beauty and being surrounded by beauty. I feel that we as humans, we have some sort of beauty receptors inside us, and being surrounded by beauty, both beauty of nature and just beauty inside, living in a beautiful place, beautiful to your standards, I really feel that it's just healing and soothing for our nervous systems. So definitely being able to be surrounded by so much beauty, and the beauty of Iceland is just so grand and magnificent that almost every day I cry. I cry. I sometimes, if you see my stories or watch my reels, you hear me sometimes saying that, a day without crying is just a day lost. So I like that feeling, to be moved and touched by life so much, so deeply, so profoundly, that all I can do is just cry. And I have it here. And that feels good, and that feels like a blessing. And I feel that that's it, basically. Wow. I feel so grateful that I could show up today and share all this story for myself, first and foremost, to be able to hear it. And also for those of you who are watching live, thank you so much. I see all your comments. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for those of you who watch a replay. Maybe I will post it also as a podcast. So if I do and you listen to this, thank you for those of you who listen. If you have any questions after listening to and watching this live, then just go ahead and ask me in the comments or send me a private message. And thank you for you. And I'm just gonna continue deepening my relationship with myself and with this life, and showing up to my greatest ability and to my greatest truth, because really there is nothing more important than that, at least not for me. I love you all very, very dearly. Thank you so much for you. I wish you a beautiful day or a beautiful evening if you watch a replay in the evening. And until next time, aloha, bye bye.